Well, one of the reasons Virginia is really important in this election is we have demographics in the state now that most closely match the national demographics. So it's become very much a bellwether state for indicating who will win the election because we so closely demonstrate what the nation looks like as a whole.
You broke the story about voter fraud in Virginia. Can you explain what happened?
So in Harrisonburg, 8 registration forms were found in a dumpster about 3 weeks ago on the registration deadline day. And what was learned very quickly was the dumpster they were put into was about a block away from the local Republican headquarters. Within a couple of days, the car that had been put the forms in the dumpster was identified and traced back to an employee that worked for the Republican Party of Virginia working on voter registrations.
And was he arrested?
Yeah, the gentleman's name was Colin Small. He was arrested and charged with 8 felony counts of voter fraud for destroying those forms.
What suggests that this could have been more than an isolated incident? Does it have any larger implications?
We've seen this in Harrisonburg in the past. Right now we're seeing a lot of students that are reporting they're not registered even though they turned in their forms. So there's a belief that this may be much more widespread and that this was the only one place that the forms were found. We don't know how widespread it is because we haven't gotten an indication yet from the registrar in Harrisonburg of who's registered and who's not. And so we really won't know until Election Day how big these numbers really are. The gentleman who was arrested is Colin Small, who originally worked for Strategic Allied Consulting, which was later merged into Pinpoint Technology after some issues in Florida with voter registrations there. This firm actually shares an address with Karl Rove's American Crossroads PAC in Warrenton, Virginia. And so we know there are significant ties, we just don't know how significant those are yet. It's illegal in Virginia to ask people about their party status before registering them. Voter registration drives are required to be nonpartisan, and there have been multiple rumors that the Republicans have been inquiring to people this year on their party status before registering them to vote. So we expect that there will be a number of indictments that come down as this is unraveled, because it appears they've been in violation of the law across the state in the way they've been doing voter registration.
I've talked recently to the leader of the Virginia Voters Alliance, a Tea Party affiliated group that's focused on voter fraud. Some critics say is engaged in voter intimidation or voter suppression. Can you talk about that sort of effort?
Well, there's been a movement in the conservative movement in Virginia for decades intimidating voters, so this is not something that's new. And generally who are targeted are new voters and minority voters and voters with lower education levels. They don't tend to go after voters that know their rights. So we expect that there will be some voter intimidation efforts this year. How widespread they are is really unpredictable. I think there are a number of polling places where Republicans may attempt to challenge voters and force them to cast conditional ballots, which will then be counted by the electoral board the next day if they're approved. In Virginia, though, the electoral boards are controlled in every county by the Republican Party in a 2-to-1 count. We have 1 Republican and 1 Democrat in each county, as well as 1 member of the party of the governor. So every county now is controlled by the Republican Party, who would be deciding whether to count those votes if we were in a close election.
When someone criticizes an office holder, you have the right to ask them, compared to what?